So unlike in the 60s, 70s, when government would establish commissions of inquiry or this inquiry or that to move society forward, things like that are no longer happening. It's more about politics, 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 politics. And that's why we have left undone a lot of things, especially how to understand society and how to help society to shape its own direction. So I am not so optimistic about government playing this role. It will take the development of certain think tanks by the people. And of course, to do that, you must also bring together people of like minds. Because if you say our goal is to develop society, take it in a different direction, you will find within the group people who are trying to use that same group for political purposes. And that's why they were there in the first place. So many of the NGOs that we used to have also somersaulted because they diverged in different directions to making money or to go into Western values and interests, and so they also are no longer important. But ultimately, society will get to that level because if you read the history of different countries, you will discover that at some point in time, some people just decided to move their society forward to say, no, enough is enough. We are getting there now. Unfortunately, you mentioned about Nigerians saying enough is enough, they are tired of what is happening, but Nigerians are the problems of Nigeria. A large percentage of Nigerians are complaining, but they don't want the structures that we have now to crumble because it is in your interest for our policemen to be malleable, to be corruptible, because if you run into certain negative things, you are able to bribe the policeman and then go home. So it is always in the interest of Nigerians for the policeman to be corrupt and for the system to be corrupt, because that is the only way you can get out of scrapes. That is the only way you can make adequate money. And so Nigerians, yes, they complain, but I can assure you that they are the problems of this country. We will need to, well, like Napoleon Bonaparte did in France. I have advocated through series of radio talks and lectures to say, okay, now we have this older generation that is like an ossified structure. You can't bend it any longer. Okay, if that is the problem, then let us start building a new generation. Like Napoleon did in France. What he did was, okay, left the elderly ones, went to the primary schools, to the basics, to begin to build new French people, new French orientation, new French culture. So why don't we go back to the basics, start with our nursery schools, our primary schools, give them new orientation. And I have also advocated that history be one of the tools that we are going to use to rebuild society. And I'm happy to tell you that both Oyo State and Ekiti State have now introduced history at the elementary levels, which means you are trying to build a new sense of history, a new sense of identity, a new orientation among the younger generation to tell them, this is who you are, this is where you are coming from, this is the direction we want you to take, and this is ultimately where your country is going to arrive at. By the time you take it from that level, and I hope it goes beyond Oyo State and Ekiti State now, which is part of the developmental problem we also have in Nigeria, we should agree. Because if you do it only in Oyo and Ekiti, and it's not done elsewhere, we are yet to satisfy that preconditions for a takeoff. For us to take off, we must be on the same page. Even if there are some people not on the same page with us, they must be few and insignificant. But for us to move forward, we must create a playing ground that is level and that is open to everybody, and in which everybody identifies with what we are doing. And elsewhere too, I have also advocated for the adoption of a grand strategy. Nigeria has no grand strategy. Government will do this one in Oyo State, will do another one in Lagos, do another one at the federal level. So what we have here is like a Tower of Babel. Nigeria is the new Tower of Babel. You know, we no longer understand what we are doing. We no longer understand each other or one another, and everything is just being done anyhow. But if you create a grand strategy, if you go and read the history of the Chinese, yes, they have changed grand strategies over time. Israel has a grand strategy. America has a grand strategy. Britain has a grand strategy. Nigeria doesn't have a grand strategy. And that grand strategy must be constructed within values, orientation, sense of mission, sense of direction. And if you don't construct this, of course, just do things anyhow. Today, the grand strategy of China is peaceful rising. That's the grand strategy. They have moved over time from one grand strategy to the other until they have now said, look, our own is peaceful rising, whether you are.
Absolutely important.
Yeah.
The question of the growth strategy, of course, we're talking of plan now, having a project for the nation on. This is very important. So I wanted to spend some few time there referring to the Chinese growth strategy, like you were saying, and maybe what Nigeria could do also try to shape this. Because, you know, it's about goal. You need to have a destination where you are going. Currently speaking, if you ask Nigerian politicians, the leaders, I don't think they have a clear objective, because the purpose of having a clear objective is that everything must be working towards that. Other than that, you are just burning energy, just burning. It is useless. So please help me with that. Say something about that grand strategy.
Well, grand strategy is using everything that you have to move in a direction that will sustain your country. Be it the human resources, the geography, the capacity of the people to do whatever they wanted to achieve, the military, everything. You throw everything into your grand strategy. And that is what China has done. We used to know China as a poverty country, stricken country in the 70s. People were hungry. We saw hunger on television. But now China is affluent enough to even buy up American corporations and invest in the American economy and give loans to African countries. How did China arrive at that? We used to know China as a communist country, you know. So how did they come to this? It took the rulers of China to recognize the need of a grand strategy that would articulate and aggregate resources for their people wherever they could get it from. And so right now, rather than, because there was a time China adopted the policy of two-line binding. Two-line binding means, wherever Russia was going, they would follow. In fact, there was a time that Chairman Mao told Nikita Khrushchev that in the event of a war with the United States, he was ready to give 6 million soldiers to the Soviet Union. And Khrushchev laughed and said, 6 million soldiers, America will wipe them out within 1 minute. Because if you use that kind of bomb that can wipe out such population, they will do so. So a time then came that there was this Sino-Soviet split in which China decided to go on its own, to say, Russia, go your way, I will go my way. And ever since that time, China had been adopting grand strategies to favor its own national development. So the current grand strategy they are using now is what they have called peaceful rising. Peaceful rising in the sense that we are no longer making enemies. whether it is the United States or it's Africa, it's Russia, it's everybody, and we get resources to make sure that our people become comfortable, that's where we are going.